Hello, this is Real World Audio. So I started a little series talking about phono stages and dynamic resolution, and we had a lot of comments, a lot of questions for these videos, and thank you guys for all of you who are asking about the signal to noise ratios and giving your comments. Lou posted an extremely valuable and a very educational experience for all of us, for all of you who are interested in what an extreme signal to noise ratio will provide to you, because he has tried, he has built literally the phono stage that gives the greatest measurable signal to noise response, and he tried tube phono stages as well, and you can read his experience with it. And I know Lou much better than most of you know it, and we share the email, and from his emails I can tell you, and from the thoughts we are sharing, I can tell you that Lou has experienced audio at the highest level, and he's not just a passive listener, he is a very experienced builder, and he is one of those people who can modify and improve on even the very highest level audio gear, uh, and he is I I really appreciate and really value all of his advice that he's sharing with us, and I learn a lot from him. So if you guys think that you are learning from me, then I'm really humbled to say that I don't know all the answers in the universe related to audio, and I also have room to grow. And Lou is helping me with that process. So thank you, Lou. I cannot just tell how much I appreciate your comments. And my dear viewers, when you watch my videos, just check out the comments, and if you see people, if you see him commenting, then please read his comments, because they will really help you to grow as in the world of audio as an audiophile. And there's many other of my subscribers, of people who comment, who have really valuable comments. For example, I would like to talk about Nick Pantazzi, and he's a musician, and he also knows how to build audio gear. He had a wonderful mentor, and just read his comments, read his experiences, because he has a lot of very good advice and solid advice to share with us. And look at Frank Garetz's post. Frank is a very experienced audiophile. And uh, and he expresses himself often in a poetic language, and I'd like you guys to heed that and do not dismiss what he shares, because I can tell from experience that audio makes you, actually the true purpose of listening to music is to enhance your life, to add something to you, to really enhance your life. I cannot say it in another way. And when that's happening, that also impacts on how you talk about your experiences. And believe me, the how Frank expresses himself, that's how I would also wish to express myself. But if I would do that from the start, then probably most of you would dismiss my channel, because people cannot relate to that yet. Because for most of us, experiencing music, recorded music, is at the level: is it dynamic enough? Do I have enough power delivery? Am I hearing bass? Do I have enough SPL? Is there enough dynamic range? These are all terms that are stuck in our heads. We are trying to work it out, from a very limited perspective. But where music can lead you, where audio can lead you, is to leave these limitations behind. And this is why I started my channel, because I want to share with you guys the knowledge that you can use to step beyond a limited view of audio into the world where you can experience music. And this is something where there is no consistent YouTube advice. There is no other channel which guides you, steers you on that road towards this path. So that's why I started doing what I'm doing, to help you navigate in the world of audio and to help you to take you on a path that leads towards appreciation of music. And I know many of you guys don't want to go there. If you want to get stuck in the head games, in just measuring things, trying to understand audio, understand sound, and just think about it as sound and nothing more, well, I think I still have advice for you as well, but I am unable to satisfy your curiosity at a deep level, because I'm not walking this path. I am not the grandmaster of this path. If you want exacting details about specific signal noise ratios, how can you improve it or not, I cannot tell exact advice on that, because my experience is rather limited in the area. It's not that I don't have experience. I'm sure I have quite a bit more experience with that than most of you, like 99.9% of you who are listening. But still, I do not consider myself anything near an expert, because in my experience, looking at the measurements alone, it's not enough to steer you in the world of sound. And why am I saying that? I am saying this because first and foremost, I am a research scientist, but I am not an engineer. I do not approach music and audio as an engineer would. I am a biomedical research scientist. So it means that I have a natural predilection to approach audio, or I would say to have an extra focus on how sound impacts the brain, how it affects our physiology. So when I pick my path on how do I walk audio, how I approach audio engineering schematics, signal to noise ratio, figures, measurements, I approach all of these through the filter of how does this impact the human hearing. So for me, when I read a signal to noise figure, for me that number, the dB value I read, is not an arbitrary value. And those values are not arbitrary. So if you read, like, let's say like a 60 dB signal to noise ratio, then you read those two readings for two separate gear are not equivalent. So basically, if you are reading, let's say a transistor-based phonostage that has 60 dB dynamic range and a vacuum tube-based phonostage that has 60 dB signal to noise ratio, then on paper, by this measurement alone, they have the exact same dynamic range, but when you listen to them, the tube version will have tremendously more, tremendously higher subjective perceived dynamic range. So what you will experience does not correlate with what the transistor-based oscilloscope measures. So our brain does not function like a machine. And I cannot hammer this fact enough to everyone's awareness. I am trying to jackhammer this fact because science is based on whether your assumptions are correct or not. We need to make basic assumptions. Without these basic assumptions, everything that you work, all your theories are worthless. So when you think about signal to noise ratio alone, without looking how does this apply to the human hearing, I don't know what we are looking at then. How a measurement measures how a measuring tool measures a piece of electronics. That's something objective, that's a fact. But those measurements will not tell you what will be the perceived dynamics that you are hearing. And how is this? So let me just use a blackboard as an example. Number one thing, when you have an oscilloscope and you measure your phonostage's signal to noise ratio, then first of all, for the noise, you measure the noise floor. So I'm now just flipping it over and I show you my oscilloscope over there, right? So when I use that scope to measure my phonostage, first I will measure what the noise level is. So basically I crank, maybe let's just remove this to get some lights here. Can I have some lights? Here we go, let's make some lights. So basically, if I want to measure my signal to noise ratio, what I'm doing is I put my probe in there, connect it to the phonostage's output, and I, on the division on the volts per div scale, I turn it down to the minimum. Now, most oscilloscopes start at the 5 millivolts per div scale, and that's where most of the measurements are made, and that's kind of woefully inadequate for phonostage measurements. And here you go, this actually it goes to 0.5 millivolts per div scale. So basically we are able to measure much deeper than most instruments, but it's the minimum. So basically I am having trouble seeing what the actual noise floor is. So here we get already a huge warning sign for signal to noise measurements, is that when the signal to noise ratio is published, it just shows what is the signal, what the headroom of the signal above the noise floor, but it does not tell you anything about the nature of the noise. And the nature of the noise is absolutely vital. And I cannot understate this fact that when you establish signal to noise for an equipment, you have to characterize the noise floor. Because for, let's say, for example, for transistor-based phonostages, when you look at the noise floor, it's a really gnarly, nasty hash. And that means that whenever you are getting even to the proximity of that noise floor, you are going to have trouble, because you are hearing, you are getting to a region which is like, if I want to make a comparison, it is like walking in a field, and when you look up the sky, the horizon, that's your dynamic range, but the ground itself, there is poisoned chemicals leaching on the floor. So basically that's the noise floor. And if you are touching it, if you are walking on it, if you get anywhere close to it, if you want to smell it, basically you put your head close to the level of the floor, you will be filled with noxious fumes, noxious gases. Your experience will be spoiled, and that's what happens to the sound. So if with solid state gear you get close to the noise floor, then you get in trouble, because you get a lot of problem, lot of interference, and that's because the brain is an adaptive system. So when you have really quiet, soft beats of the music, your ear will adapt its own dynamic range perception to very quiet mode, and you will be able to perceive the qualities of that super nasty noise floor. And it will spoil the experience because it's something unnatural. And now, when we look at tube designs, and I would say not just tube designs, but designs that have power supplies that use pi filtering, especially choke filtering, they have a healthy noise floor. You will see a crystal clear 60 or 120 hertz sine wave as the noise floor, or 50 or 100 hertz if you live in Europe. And what that does is that it provides a constant for the human brain, a constant low level clear hum, and the brain operates on making signal comparisons. It's a signal processor. So it means that it measures all of the signals that arrive to the ear, and then the brain puts the picture together from that. The acoustic image, 3D acoustic image, is processed from a linear response. And when we have a constant sine wave riding at a low level, the brain can use that to adjust its dynamic range perception to that low level constant signal. So basically we have a constant noise, it provides us a constant noise, constant clear signal, and it helps our brain to calculate dynamic information. And this is absolutely vital. That's why you will hear the dynamics as much higher from a tube phono stage, because you have a constant signal. It is like having a built-in compass. If you have a compass, it's much easier to find your way than not having a compass. Now, a design where the hum is not a constant sine wave, but it's a nasty hash, which is the case of solid-state devices and also those vacuum tube devices that have regulated supplies, which are regulated by transistors or even maybe tubes. But I have not looked into tube regulated power supplies, so I cannot really comment on that, but I expect them to not to have as nice a nice sine wave as the noise floor, but a hash, not as aggressive as a solid state hash, but still a hash, which means that that is a true noise. So it means that whatever comes close to the hash in dynamic range, if it comes even 20 dB close to the noise floor, it means that that signal is getting compromised. And why? Because when you listen, for example, to a violin, and that violin is, let's say, playing softly at a, let's say, 35 dB level, like really, really quiet violin, it doesn't mean that all the information you're receiving are coming at 35 dB. It will have leading edge transients that will be probably in the 50-60 dB, and it will have soft components riding at 10-15 dB. And those soft, so the hard edge, the extra dB on it, that will give you the liveliness of a violin. Whether it does have the attack, it has the dynamics or not, but the soft part, and people focus on that only to have that extra dynamic headroom, but that's insufficient to reproduce a violin correctly. And to reproduce the violin correctly, you also need the low level part of the signal, which rides about 20 dB below what you are experiencing as the average SPL. And that lower level signal, that gives you the tonality, the wooden body sound of the violin. And when you are missing that, that's when you hear the screeching cats meowing instead of the violin from your loudspeaker. And that's because that soft part has to be reproduced by the low range of the dynamic capability of your device. And when I listen to transistor-based phonostages, transistor-based devices, in every single case without exception, that range disappears. And you can hear that through hearing screeching cats instead of violins. And that's an indication that that low level signal that should reach down to 15 dB level, it's getting compromised severely. And that's why you cannot hear it. And the measurement will tell you that the oscilloscope is capable to measure that signal that that transistorized device puts out. But your human hearing is already unable to process the information because it's too close to the nasty hash, and that nasty hash interferes with the 20 dB or more above it. So while technically, if you have a phonostage that's transistor based, like a JFET phonostage, and maybe even it has a very wild figure for dynamic range, it will not translate well to the human ear because the lower couple tens of dBs will be compromised for the human hearing, and you won't be able to enjoy the benefits that your oscilloscope can fully enjoy. And the other thing, guys, that I want to talk about, now time is really pressing, is that if you have that nasty hash as the noise floor, then even 20-30 dB above it, you are already getting a compromise in sound quality. So basically your 60 dB phonostage becomes a 30 dB phonostage for high fidelity purposes. Of course, you can use the lower 30 dB as well with compromised fidelity. But last time I checked, my channel is about high fidelity. That's why I am not advocating low fidelity solutions. Yes, they are affordable, they are easy to come by, and but this is not what you guys from expect to me, right? And you also don't want me to sugarcoat things, right? You want me to expand your horizon and to give you intel that you can act upon. So when we have a noise floor that is consisting of a pure sine wave, that means that the brain can use that constant signal as a compass, as a measuring tool. So you have the entire 60 dB range at your disposal, plus the brain has the ability to process way below the noise floor. So in a a tube phonostage, the noise floor does not limit the human perception. We can easily hear below the noise level, below that clear sine wave level. If you are not sure about this, then do this experiment. Have your loudspeaker, your stereo system, produce a 60 dB pure 120 hertz sine wave, just what your phonostage would output. And calibrate it with a microphone, and or even not, don't calibrate it, just have someone standing next to your loudspeaker and have that person talk to you at the same volume that the sine wave is coming through, and you will notice that you can easily understand that person, and have that person talk softer than that 120 hertz signal, and you can still understand the person. And or have someone play a music instrument quieter than that 120 hertz signal, and you will be still able to fully make out what that instrument is playing. Of course, you will have some compromises when it comes to when the instrument also has a 120 hertz component to it, but because the noise is constant, your brain will be able to calculate, to subtract that. That's how the brain works. It has an analog signal processor in it, and if you have a constant 120 hertz background hum, it is able to subtract it from the music. And it will not bother you after a while unless you have OCD and it is at a level where it's bothersome. However, if you have a decent phonostage, then the level of that hum is below the noise floor of your room, and in that case it will not be affecting your experience. And this is what I'm experiencing in my room. Even though I have monstrously highly efficient loudspeakers, my phonostages hum even if I turn the volume way high up, so that the highest signal peak will be at 100 dB. Even then, even if I sit this close to the speaker, I do not hear any hum at all. So basically, when we are talking about that level, it means that there is no auditory detraction from the signal, so it's not interfering with your conscious effort to listen to the music. It is used as a guiding compass for your brain to gauge, to correctly gauge the full dynamic range of the music you are hearing. And it's not compromising the signal that gets close to its level, and it allows signal below its level to come through. So basically, when you read that a phonostage has 67 dB, a tube phonostage has 67 dB dynamic range, then it means that for your brain you are getting an approximately 80 to 90 dB range to work with precisely and accurately. And if you read 67 dB, the same figure for a solid state phonostage, it means that your brain has about 47 dB of dynamic range to work with, and below that, the first 20 dB is going to be a compromised region where the tonality will be severely altered. So I hope, guys, that this quite lengthy explanation helps everyone to orient yourself in the world of the signal to noise ratio figures. So thank you, have an awesome day, bye bye.